Hi, I'm Rachel. I teach middle school students with visual impairments, and I started this presentation because I picked up a really powerful book over the summer, Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. It was completely eye-opening for me. I realized part of the reason my job as a teacher was so hard is I felt like I was getting all of these mental and emotional demands and no framework to really hang these tools and strategies that I was given in order to be effective. So I really wanted to develop this as a framework that we can all use and all share and all keep in mind and develop a common language so that when we are doing our jobs as teachers and assistants and specialists and administrators, we all have a common language and vernacular to refer to. So here is the book that it's all inspired by. Here are some of the objectives of the presentation. And I want to give a little bit of an introduction about what habits are. So, why do we look at our daily habits? The key to sustaining positive change is to turn each desired action into a habit. So, I really believe that small actions over time add up. And the more that we can make the desired actions of ourselves into habits, then we don't have to use precious mental energy thinking about what we're going to do, thinking about the action. It just becomes automatic. The more we can automate our own desired actions for ourselves, the easier life is and the more mental capacity we have for the really big decisions. So I'm going to give some research on the importance of habits and what a habit is. We have that habit loop, which is a trigger, a routine, and a reward. Defining the trigger as the cue that launches the actual action or behavior. The routine is the action or specific behavior itself. And the reward is what we tangibly get after the routine or the feeling we get after demonstrating the action. So the link below offers a really fun clip of a Navy SEAL talking about the importance of making your bed. So looking about thought pattern habits, what are our mental habits? It goes way beyond just positive and negative thoughts. It's estimated that the average person has around 60,000 thoughts each day. So oftentimes we're interacting with others based upon thought patterns that we've developed over time or over the majority of our lives even, and we're not even aware of it. So I really think that it's important that we all take a step back and continuously try to be mindful of what our thought patterns are. What are our assumptions that we bring to different conversations? What are the assumptions that we bring to different conversations and interactions with our students, as well as with each other? Which brings me to the power of a paradigm. So a paradigm is defined for these purposes as a theory or a perception, our perception or frame of reference that we carry around with us, the lens through which we see the world. So our culture, our past experiences, how we were raised, our education, these are all influencing our paradigms. If we think of a paradigm as a map, we can look at this map and we're going to find the Detroit Institute of Arts. Time's up. Obviously, we can't find a location in Detroit if we're using a map of Chicago. So if we're using ineffective maps, we could change our attitude, we could change our behavior, we could think more positively, but if we're not utilizing the right tools, how are we going to reach our ultimate goals or be the most effective that we can be? So each of us has many maps in our heads, but they could be divided into two categories. Maps of the way things are, or our realities, and maps of the way things should be, or our values. And we bring these maps and these two main categories to everything that we do. So you may have seen this picture before. It's been around for quite a while. If not, feel free to pause it for this activity. But here's a picture, and I want you to think about what you see in this picture. Just write down exactly what you see in this picture. So this was originally done with Harvard students, and everybody was given a card. One set of cards was made to look like a young woman. The other set of cards was made to highlight the features of the old woman. And when this exact image was projected onto the board, the students who had the old woman cards saw the old woman in the picture. The students with the young woman cards saw the young woman in the picture, and students were actually fighting over whether this picture represented an old woman or a young woman, thinking that the other side was crazy. And it really shows that we aren't even always consciously aware of what we are being told or what we are being trained to think. And it might not even be direct or indirect, but our experiences shape so strongly our perspective that it can be really, really hard to see the other side. And then as soon as the students discussed and really highlighted the features of the old woman, outlined the features of the young woman, suddenly it shifted for each side, and they could see the other person's perspective. So the real challenge is trying to remember that our maps of reality aren't necessarily pure truth or the only truth, and constantly asking of ourselves, what are the assumptions that we are making? Why are we making those assumptions? And not only acknowledging the other perspectives, but trying to step back and allow others to really be able to show us their truths and their realities. So why a picture of a rat? Well, you'll have to click on the link below to hear the full reported story on this research experiment. But the experiment was taking a group of scientists and a group of rats and randomly labeling the rats either smart rats or dumb rats, and not telling the scientists that these were randomly labeled rats. And then creating a series of tasks for the rats that the scientists were supposed to implement with the rats. Supposed to teach the rat to crawl through the end of the maze to get to the food, for example. And what happened, maybe you can predict what happened, but what happened was that the rats that were labeled smart made huge amounts of progress, even surprising the scientists. The rats that were labeled dumb actually regressed or didn't show any signs of progress at all. So even though they were randomly labeled, how the researchers were interacting with rats mattered to the end result. The smart rats, randomly labeled, were able to accomplish so much more. And if we think that how people interact with small, tiny animals such as rats makes a difference to their outcome and what they can learn, think about what a difference our attitudes and our perspective interacting with our students can make. And this study inspires me and it terrifies me, because every single thing I do really matters when it comes down to it. What we all do on a daily basis matters. How we interact with these students could make a huge, maybe lifelong impact on what they're able to achieve. I think that the progress that each student can make is going to blow our minds and really inspire us to keep doing what we do. And something I keep coming back to is this idea that the way we see the problem is the problem. So how can we reframe the problem in our minds so that it creates an opportunity for us to do better, an opportunity to make a new or stronger connection with our students? So this is the end of my habits overview. I'm going to have one video for each of the 7 habits, and they'll be between 5 and 10, 12 minutes in length. So I think this gives us a firm introduction and common language for what's coming next. So thank you. I hope you'll join me again for habit number 1.